Whether or not children should be vaccinated is a hot topic, as is a measles outbreak. I'm Tim Harfman, and that story is coming up.
A new overseas mission for Pope Francis has just been announced. He will soon go back to Africa this weekend. He'll be in Muslim-majority Morocco. Boeing is rushing to fix its 737 MAX 8 jetliner while the Senate grilled the FAA about air travel safety. Plus, the Tablet's editor-in-chief, Jorge Dominguez, joins me for a preview of the latest edition. Two big topics are the sanctity of life and the role of women in the church. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. The measles outbreak is hitting New York City, and it's especially severe in Brooklyn. Experts say religious-based objections to immunizing children is playing a major role, and the Vatican has weighed in on vaccinating children. Currents News' Tim Harfman is in Williamsburg, where the number of cases has reached triple digits. Tim.
Liz, in Brooklyn and Queens, there have been about 200 confirmed cases over the last few months, with a large cluster found here in Williamsburg. As the disease spreads, doctors are urging parents to have their children vaccinated. As Yoel drops off one of his children at a Williamsburg school, he's concerned about the recent measles outbreak.
You have to obey the doctors. If the doctors say you gotta get vaccinated, then you have to take the vaccine.
According to the city's Department of Health, there have been 204 confirmed cases in Brooklyn and Queens over the last few months. In Brooklyn, the Williamsburg neighborhood had 151 cases, 48 in Borough Park, 2 cases within Midwood and Marine Park, and 1 case in both Bensonhurst and Brighton Beach. In Queens, there was 1 confirmed case in Flushing. Though anyone can contract the disease, the health department says most current cases are within the Jewish community.
There is a large anti-vaccine movement throughout the country. And therefore, I think that what we're seeing in the Orthodox Jewish community specifically is just a microcosm of what's going on throughout the country.
Dr. Joseph Kaplovich is a pediatric specialist at NYU Langone. He says one issue is that parents believe a myth that a vaccine will do more harm than good.
The anti-vaccine movement in general has this just belief that by giving the vaccine, I'm going to danger my own child. And that becomes a very hard thing to try to fight.
But he's fighting back by raising awareness about the lengthy list of symptoms.
Starts off as fever, usually it's high fever, you're talking about like 104, 105, cough, congestion, runny nose, red eyes, they get what's called conjunctivitis. And it comes with a head-to-toe rash.
Just last week, the Vatican's Academy for Life said Catholic parents should vaccinate their children for the good of their family and community. Besides the vaccine, Dr. Kaplovich says you can prevent measles by washing your hands and covering your mouth when you cough. Parents like Yoel, who vaccinated all 8 of his children, want others to do the same.
The people that don't give vaccine, I don't mix in people's lives.
And it is required that all children get the measles vaccine before being enrolled in any school within the 5 boroughs. In Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News. Back to you, Liz.
Tim, before we let you go, at what age should children receive this vaccine?
Well, Dr. Kaplovich said that parents should have their child take the vaccine around the age of 1, then receive a booster shot between the ages of 4 and 6, Liz.
Thanks, Tim. Very important information there. Today is the first full day of a measles state of emergency in Rockland County. Anyone under the age of 18 who is not vaccinated against the disease will be banned from public places. That's likely to impact thousands of school children. The ban will be in effect for at least the next 30 days. As of last Thursday, there were 151 confirmed measles cases in Rockland County. A new overseas mission for Pope Francis has just been announced. He will soon go back to Africa after he travels to Muslim-majority Morocco this weekend. Melissa Butts is at the Vatican with the latest.
The Vatican has just announced the Pope's 4th upcoming trip to Africa this September, just ahead of his 2-day trip to Morocco this weekend. The Pope will travel to Mozambique, Madagascar, and Mauritius from September 4th to the 10th. It's Pope Francis's 6th confirmed international trip for 2019. The full schedule for the 6-day visit has not yet been published, yet the Vatican has said the Pope will visit the city of Maputo in Mozambique, Antananarivo in Madagascar, and in the Mauritius Islands he will go to Port Louis. The Pope's visit to the African continent was a possibility, especially after these words exchanged with the president of Mozambique in September 2018 at the Vatican.
Estoy vivo.
Ele vai, se estiver vivo, mas vivo vai estar,
Now, the trip is official. The theme for each country is peace, which is represented in the mottos and logos the Vatican published for each leg of the Pope's new apostolic journey. This will be the 4th time Pope Francis visits Africa after his trip to Kenya, Uganda, and the Central African Republic in 2015, his visit to Egypt in 2017, and his next trip to Morocco on March 30th and 31st. Mozambique is one of the countries recently affected by a cyclone and deadly flooding in Africa. Pope Francis expressed his closeness with the country just last week.
In questi giorni, grandi inondazioni hanno seminato lutti e devastazione in diverse regioni del Mozambico, dello Zimbabwe e del Malawi. A queste care popolazioni esprimo il mio dolore e la mia vicinanza.
In Mozambique alone, an estimated 447 people have died, and 1.85 million are in need of urgent assistance as a result of the natural disaster. Unlike the crowd awaiting Pope Francis this weekend in majority Muslim Morocco, the quarter of the population in Mozambique, Mauritius, and Madagascar are Catholic. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News. Back to you in New York, Liz.
All right, thank you, Melissa. And as Melissa just reported, Pope Francis will be in Morocco this weekend. He hopes to build bridges between Christians and Muslims in a country where most of the population worships Islam. On the first day of his journey, the Holy Father will meet with the Moroccan officials and Muslim leaders. He'll also visit migrants at a center run by Caritas in the Archdiocese of Rabat. On Sunday, he will go to Rabat's cathedral before heading back to the Vatican. The director of Italy's Islamic Cultural Center said the Pope's trip will show that Christians and Muslims are not enemies. President Trump met today with the wife of Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido in an unexpected session at the White House. Trump assured Fabiano Guaido of America's backings for her husband's bid to replace Nicolas Maduro as the country's president.
We are with Venezuela. We are with your husband, as you know, and we're with the people that he represents, which is a big majority of the country. What's happening there should not happen and be allowed to happen anywhere. So we're with you 100%.
In Caracas, another blackout has knocked out electricity for over 6 million people. The power shut down yesterday and many people flocked to a local business with a generator to charge their phones. A busy day concerning the safety of air travel. Boeing is rushing to provide a software fix for its 737 MAX aircraft in the wake of 2 deadly crashes. And the Senate put FAA officials on the hot seat over how the agency certifies the airworthiness of jetliners. Omar Jimenez reports.
We need to understand exactly what happened.
On Capitol Hill, there are growing questions about why the FAA didn't immediately ground Boeing's 737 MAX 8 planes in the wake of 2 crashes that killed more than 300 people combined.
These questions, when they arise, if they arise, are troubling because we should have absolute confidence in the regulators that they are certifying properly.
The agency claims it wasn't seeing any systemic performance issues.
You know, the FAA is a very professional, fact-based organization, and they don't make decisions that are too hasty.
But they're decisions that are oftentimes made in conjunction with the manufacturer. The official causes of the crashes are still being determined, but the focus has been on an automatic safety feature that may have incorrectly forced the nose of each plane to dip. The company continues to insist their 737 MAX planes are safe and is set to implement a software fix and enhanced training for pilots.
We're working with customers and regulators around the world to restore faith in our industry and also to reaffirm our commitment to safety and to earning the trust of the flying public.
Boeing plans to submit their final compliance documents for the software update to the FAA by the end of the week. In Washington, Omar Jimenez, Currents News.
Utah's Governor Gary Herbert has signed a new law that bans abortion after 18 weeks of pregnancy. Herbert, a Republican, has called himself a pro-life guy and said scientific advancements warrant new abortion laws. The measure passed Utah's legislature along party lines. Planned Parenthood and the ACLU will challenge the law in court. A federal judge in North Carolina has struck down a law that bans abortion after 20 weeks of pregnancy. Judge William Osteen called the measure unconstitutional, saying the Supreme Court has ruled against setting a specific timeline to abortion restrictions. The new ruling will go into effect in 60 days, giving North Carolina time to appeal. Chicago Cardinal Blaise Cupich is warning about a pair of Illinois abortion pills, calling them radical and disturbing. One of them would allow partial birth abortion and require private insurance to pay for it. The Cardinal also said the measure seeks to strip unborn persons of any protection or even consideration under the law and declares abortion to be a fundamental right and matter of health care. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio is also mobilizing support for the lives of the unborn. The Brooklyn Diocese is joining the international 40 Days for Life campaign during Lent. The bishop's action is in response to New York's abortion law, legislation that removes restrictions on the deadly procedure even in the third trimester. Bishop DiMarzio is encouraging prayer, fasting, and education. The Brooklyn Diocese has published resource materials relating to the 40 Days for Life online. Go to the dioceseofbrooklyn.org and click on the Marriage and Family tab. There's a lot more news headed your way.
To fail to recognize God as the Lord of life.
Monsignor Michael Curran talks about the morality of assisted suicide on the heels of new legislation in New Jersey. Pope Francis is honoring a religious sister who's helped the needy for 6 decades. Plus, a little girl reunited with the only piece of her dad she has to hold on to while he's deployed. And do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@thesalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. The sanctity of life from conception to natural death is under threat, not only from abortion. New Jersey is the latest state that will legalize assisted suicide. Democrat Governor Phil Murphy saying he looks forward to signing the new law where terminally ill patients can receive medications that will end their lives. Monsignor Michael Curran is a moral theologian who teaches students at Dunwoody, the St. Joseph Seminary in Yonkers. Monsignor, it's always so good to have you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Lawmakers are arguing, Monsignor, that this right to die should be a law. What on the fundamental aspect of it is wrong with this kind of thinking?
Well, Liz, I think there are a number of things that are wrong with it, but I think if I had to pick out two, the first one would obviously it's a failure to recognize God as the Lord of life, as the one who ultimately decides when we come and when we go, in that sense. But even on another level, it represents to me a kind of an abandonment of the patient and allowing people to come to the conclusion that their life just isn't worth living anymore, which I think is a terribly dangerous thing, assault against human dignity.
Proponents of the law, advocates of the law, say that assisted suicide legislation is supposed to end the suffering of patients. So how do you argue against ending the suffering based on Catholic teaching?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think one of our responsibilities in life, as in the human family, is to assist each other in situations of suffering. And certainly the medical profession, one of its chief goals is to work on eliminating suffering. But I think the reality of human life is that there's no way to eliminate all suffering, whether it be physical, emotional, spiritual. There's some element that's kind of this side of heaven, part of our life. And the far better thing would be to just look at that in reality and do our best to walk with people, to palliative care, to deal with pain, all kinds of emotional support from family and caregivers that can ease the person into letting nature take its course.
So just to clarify that, the
Yeah.
Catholic Church does not advocate suffering
We certainly
at all.
don't. We understand our position is realistic in the sense that not only cannot all suffering be eliminated, but there's meaning to that suffering.
Okay. All right, Monsignor, in keeping with this line of thinking, I want to call your attention to a full screen we're about to show you here. 6 states, plus the District of Columbia, have passed suicide laws. Now, we're going to take a look at this map. In red, they are New Jersey, Colorado, the District of Columbia, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington. Now, calling your attention to the 2 states in pink, Montana and California, allow suicide with a court order. Which brings us to this. There is no uniform method for carrying out these suicides. Now, what are the dangers with just so many variables in place?
Well, the first thing, you don't want to get sick in those 6 states, that's for sure.
Yes.
But I think the danger is that people who really haven't thought it through, people who might be in a very difficult emotional state at that moment might make a rash judgment. But it just no matter where you are, I think it's just a really allowing people to just be led to believe that their life has no more value.
Monsignor, we have 30 seconds, so I have to ask you, what should be the greatest concern right now about this trend, these new laws about assisted suicide?
I think the greatest concern would be to that we're running the risk of just, as I put it, what is optional now might become mandatory later on, the famous slippery slope.
All right, Monsignor, thank you. You always put it in such great perspective, from the perspective of the church. Thank you for always being here.
My pleasure. Always an honor to be here, Liz. Thank you.
Pope Francis is honoring a missionary nun who has been working in the Central African Republic for 6 decades, saying she deserves the recognition because missionaries do not often make the news. Isabella Sanchez has that report.
At the end of the general audience, the Pope paid public homage to a religious sister he met in the Central African Republic during his trip in 2016. Her name is Sister Maria Concheta. She is 85 years old and has been a missionary for 60 years.
Lei mi ha raccontato che nella sua vita ha aiutato a nascere circa 3.000 bambini. Che meraviglia.
He said the homage he offers to her is also in celebration of all missionaries. The church dedicated the month of October to celebrating missions.
Cara sorella, a nome mio e della Chiesa, ti offro un'onorificenza e un segno del nostro affetto e del nostro grazie per tutto il lavoro che hai fatto in mezzo alle sorelle e ai fratelli africani al servizio della vita dei bambini, delle mamme e delle famiglie. Il vostro lavoro, cari missionari e missionarie, è grande. Voi bruciate la vita seminando la parola di Dio con la vostra testimonianza.
The Pope's trip to the Central African Republic faced a lot of security concerns. However, his time there impacted him greatly. In the Bangui Cathedral, he inaugurated the Jubilee of Mercy.
The Holy Father added that all missionaries deserve to be canonized because they dedicate their lives to service. Army Staff Sergeant Travis Atkins was posthumously presented with the Medal of Honor at the White House today. The Catholic sergeant died after using his own body to cover a detonation from a suicide bomber in order to protect his comrades. He saved 3 lives in the process. Atkins' son, Trevor, accepted the medal on behalf of the family. Still to come on Currents News, the Tablet's editor-in-chief, Jorge Dominguez, is moments away to preview stories about the right to life and women in the church that appear in the new edition, and the heartwarming story of a military daughter who lost her beloved doll at a busy airport. We'll be right back. The right to life and women in the church are two of the biggest stories in the latest edition of the Tablet. Editor-in-Chief of the Tablet, Jorge Dominguez, is here to tell us more. Jorge, welcome as always. Tell us, what stories are you featuring in the paper about the sanctity of life, such an important topic?
Yes, well, last week the Bishop of Scotland was about 40 days for life, and you know, we are following that march in order. We have a local, national, and international stories about the sanctity of life. At the local level, we have a March for Life in Manhattan with the testimony of a survivor of abortion. At the national level, we have the governor of Mississippi just signed into law a heartbeat bill banning abortion after a heartbeat can be detected. And at the international level, this weekend in Argentina, 2 million people march for life. But you have to get all the details on the paper.
As always, you have it covered on so many levels, Jorge. Now, women in the church, another major topic in the Tablet. In fact, Bishop DiMarzio is writing about it. This should be very interesting. What will readers read in this newspaper?
It is a very interesting column by Bishop DiMarzio talking about the role of women in the church. And, you know, together with that, we have two very interesting articles about the same issue. One of them is about our favorite nun, Sister Norma Pimentel, that she's talking about this is the moment of women in the church. And there is another very interesting article by my good friend Rina Guides talking about the role of women in the Amazonian church. You are going to have the Synod of the Amazonian church. Well, they are talking about this. It's very interesting.
And really quickly, a special pullout about
Bishop Valero's funeral. It was at the beginning of this week. It is our homage to Bishop Valero. It's a beautiful thing.
Chock full of great information. Thank you so much, Jorge.
Thank you, Liz.
Always, these stories, much more, will appear in the printed version of the Tablet, which is in churches across the diocese right now, or in your mailbox with a subscription. Your support for the Tablet is needed to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. If you subscribe to the Tablet, you'll save up to 55%. So go to the website, thetablet.org/home55, or call 877-883-8356. A 6-year-old girl in Missouri thought she might never see her special companion again after dropping her beloved doll at the Kansas City International Airport. But the woman who found it saved the day when she tracked down little Catherine Whipple and returned her doll.
The lady came up to me and handed it to me. She said she found it on the ground.
When KCI valet Dina Morley was handed a military doll with a photo of a girl and her father at the airport,
I love her little smile.
She set it on her counter, hoping the family would come back.
It's cute. It's very cute.
But when it was still there days later, she took to Facebook.
Kind of big time exploded.
A family friend saw it.
That might be her. Look at that big old smile.
The girl worried she'd said goodbye forever.
Are you Catherine?
And then reunited. The doll belongs to Catherine Whipple.
My daddy doll.
The 6-year-old's father is deployed.
He's far away.
She dropped it racing with her mom, an Army captain, trying to catch a flight.
She sleeps with it pretty much every night.
Every night I have it.
She even shares it with her 3-year-old brother.
I sneak into his room in the middle of the night and I take it from him.
No one who shared that post could have known how much the doll or the photo meant.
We were at a daddy-daughter date at Chuck E. Cheese.
Now she's holding it again.
I would have had a very sad little girl.
Catherine's mom says she clutches her doll every day until she can hug her dad when he returns home. The power of social media. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.